Being a black man is not just their skin, it's being able to survive. Being a black man is being able to mentally create a system within inside a system which benefits mind, body, and soul. Being a black man is to understand that this system which presents itself as superior is ultimately a lie. Consciously or subconsciously, me as a black man, I sometimes feel I need to wear a mask. This invisible mask acts as a shield, a defense, a persona, in order to cover up my one true blackness. Some black men feel that if this mask is removed, one will feel isolated, singled out, victimized, and ultimately, no one. Many black men detest this mask. However, when a black man's family and survival is at stake on a daily basis, one will do what one will have to do. In the eyes of this system, a black man is someone to fear, someone to hate, someone to be forgotten. However, to me, being a black man is someone who disconnects every negative connection that's been placed on him, and mentally creates a new perception of self that he's been told to hate. And it's this very perception, this very mentality that frees me. I define me .
What it is to be a black man is to learn how to navigate through a bunch of hurdles that this society has given you from a very, very young age. Being a black man in the society in which we live is it's a challenge. You have to be quite thick-skinned. You have to be strong. I know a lot of black men who have, I guess, fallen victim to the society in which they live due to, you know, circumstances and all kinds of stuff. So you have to learn to be mentally strong. Not all of us are. You have to learn to also love. You have to learn to forgive. You have to learn to know yourself, I think, as a black man. Being a black man in society means you are going to be faced with a lot of negative energy, not because you've actually done anything wrong, but just because of the way society perceives you. Being a black man to me is being 13 years old and walking with my friends down the street and the police pulling over to ask us some questions. I had my afro comb when I had hair, the one with the fist. The police officer said, "Do I have any weapons on me?" And I said no. And he said, "Could you empty your pockets?" And I emptied my pocket and my afro comb came out of my pocket, and he looked at me and said, "That looks like a weapon to me." My friend looked at him, they looked at me, I looked at him, and I said, "It's a comb." And he said, "How do I know that?" I didn't understand, but it was at that point, after analysing it, I realised that he saw something that I didn't see. And I think being a black man in a society is interacting with people that see something that you don't see. Every black man, I would say, has been seen a certain way when they're not that way, and felt the energy of a person perceiving them a certain way even though they're not doing anything. I see myself as a provider, as a father. I see myself as a Rubik's Cube of emotion. Probably doesn't make any sense, but there's so many sides to me as a black man in this society that, you know, I could be any one of them. It's a mask or a persona that you have to put on depending on which environment that you're in. Like a chameleon, that's how I see myself. I see myself as someone who's able to adapt to any situation that the society throws at me, whether it be street, corporate, or anything in between. I think I see myself as a thinker. My role models today, people who are living, I have dead and living role models. My first living role model today would probably be my mother. She has done a lot with a little. She made the best out of having 5 children and no fathers around. I'm a father myself. It's hard for me, and I can't imagine what it must have been like having 5 children by yourself. So she would be someone who I would give a lot of credit to. People who I aspire to be like, who are no longer with her, I would say Art Garvey. He done so much for black people at a time where they were quite fragmented and going through so much. I would say Thomas Sankara would be a second one. I mean, most of my role models are people who actively try to seek to keep black people in a good position or uplift them. Ashra Kwesi, who is a current role model of mine, who is actually living still today, and his teacher, Dr. Ben, who has already passed, would be another role model of mine. These people are important to me because they embody unity, purpose, and they embody love for their people, and that's what I'm about. I'm about purpose and love for my people, so this is why these people's energies resonate with mine. The perpetuation of the big, strong, scary black male is the narrative that is mostly portrayed, in my view, which then trickles down into the way people in society see you. And I would say the root of that came from colonialism and slavery. I think it came from white fear, from black insurrection, from black people, from black men particularly, you know, fighting against them, you know, to not be slaves or not be colonized. And didn't happen all throughout Jim Crow, all throughout the South and the North, let's say. And so we have it today as black males being the scary black man. You can go to TV shows, you can go to cop shows. Black men are either seen as scary, or if they can't make you scary, they seek to effeminize you, emasculate you in one way, shape or form, and they seem to make you docile. The positive black male image, and that's not to say that there isn't any, is seldom used, especially the positive black family. It's not really used as much as the negative black male image. Media has a lot to answer for, and TV has a lot to answer for, and also popular culture. As black people, we need to be very mindful, very watchful of the images that we see on the TV and in the media, and what we are now allowing our children to consume, because those images will be the ones that download into their subconscious, and those images will be the ones that they try to portray. So it's now up to us to give ourselves a positive image. We are now in a position to give ourselves that platform with this, with our own art, with our own TV shows. So now we need to come together and make sure that the negative image isn't the only one that's seen. We need to now give very, very positive images of ourselves.
What is black art? Black art is a reflection of self, a reflection of our reality, our experience, our history. Through art, we allow ourselves as black people to release our inner self, our inner magic, our inner beauty, our freedom. As our freedom in the real world seems to be denied. Black art allows us to remove the physical and mental chains that consistently try to unfree us.
I would say the black experience in Harlem and the black experience in London would be similar in ways that the Renaissance of Harlem, where, you know, the music and the culture became very prevalent, was pushed to the forefront. Here in London, I think the only kind of similar thing I could say about that would be the Notting Hill Carnival, and how music and culture got pushed together like once a year, where we had, or we still have, our yearly carnival. So, you know, you get people from all over the Caribbean, all over Africa coming together and just basically sharing culture and music and vibes and all that kind of stuff. I think that's the only way I could kind of link them together. I think Harlem's Renaissance was much deeper, I guess much more fruitful. There was much more of a bigger community, I would say, in Harlem than there is in London, because London's quite fragmented. So you have little pockets of community in London, whereas Harlem was just one big conglomerate where, you know, shops and, you know, businesses and everything kind of sprung up. And whereas over here, they're here today and gone tomorrow. I think the Harlem Renaissance showed that no matter what you do to black people, they will prosper if you leave them alone. Black people have such a rich culture and diversity among them that they will just find a way to be themselves. We did it during slavery. We did it during colonialism, and we're doing it even now. No matter what kind of oppression black people face, we always revert back to our default position, which is rich culture, art, a way in which to express ourselves like, I would say, no other people on the planet. I always look at the Harlem Renaissance with those kind of eyes. No matter what you give us, it's that old cliche of, you know, if you're given lemons, you make lemonade, and that's what we do. Africans have always preserved their culture via folk stories or art, carvings. So black people have always categorized stuff and wrote things down for the other generations. We're a people who hand our stuff down from generation to generation. So it's important because it's our history. It's important because we've always done it. It's important because that is the African way. That is how, you know, how black people have always been, which is why the elders in our societies were so respected, which is why, you know, the elders were given so much reverence, you know, and the ancestors are given so much reverence because it's keeping their memory alive and the stuff that they've done. I want the next generation to hold on to the fact that they can be better than the generation before them while using the generation before them as inspiration. I've always said there's a lot of people who glorify the Nile Valley civilization. A lot of people don't understand that it's our job to become the Nile Valley civilization in this time. So we use their inspiration, but we move it to our time. So as long as we're still using them as an inspiration to forward ourselves, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. So the next generation has to use what the past generation has done, if it's been good and if it's been, you know, for the betterment of them, and move forward with it.